kind of spawned it. I have a program that will deal with this completely and from the beginning. It is called capital homesteading. And with capital homesteading, we won't just owe on America's future, we will own America's future. And I think everybody in here agrees that if you have values, and you have values in your community, the most important thing is that you want to provide for your families and give them everything that they need to have to move forward and grow and become productive citizens and live their life the way they were intended. The Declaration of Independence says we were all created equal, and with this we are endowed by our Creator with the inalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. One thing that's neglected there is the means of acquiring and possessing property. And at that time, all our founding fathers were property holders. At that time, they were the only ones that voted. And as we enfranchised all our citizens, we enfranchised all our citizens to be voters, but not all our citizens to be property holders. And over the many years, as we went through the Industrial Revolution, we ended up having concentrations of capital and property so that owners are a very small group of people. And it shouldn't be that way. We should all be property owners. We should all be voters and owners. We should all be voters and owners and consumers. We should all be owners and workers. And in the United States, that would be the perfect check and balance to the economic power of the financial institutions, where we would all own a piece of what we're bailing them out. They're just taking the money and they're doing what they did, whether they achieved it by fraud or otherwise. They are taking the money that we're bailing them out with, and all we're given is the bill. We're in debt because of that. What we're looking for, if you're worried about the economy collapsing, or if your job is disappearing in the next round of layoffs, one of the many Americans living paycheck to paycheck with the fear of losing your home to foreclosure. To fix the broken economy, we do not need more of the same old New Deal Band-Aids. What we need is, we don't need more government distribution, corporate bailouts, growing consumer and government debt. It'll only make the crisis worse. None of these solutions will grow the economy and get us out of debt. We need a just deal with a real plan to get ownership, power, and justice to every citizen. Just as Abraham Lincoln enacted the Homestead Act in 1862 to grow the American economy, I work as your U.S. representative to pass the Capital Homesteading Act to grow a healthy, fair, and free enterprise economy that will create new jobs and ownership opportunities for every citizen. My Capital Homestead Act will democratize money and credit, the money and credit system to generate sustainable, broadly owned, private sector growth so that businesses can grow and employ more people, and you as a citizen and worker can own the capital that creates the new wealth. Bring a more simple and fair tax system to encourage expanded ownership, pay down the federal debt, leave more money in your pocket, and make our government officials truly accountable to you, the citizen. Solve America's home foreclosure and debt crisis. I said solve. And finance true energy independence, foster sustainable and broadly owned growth, pay for universal health care through competitive private sector, restore respect for America by making ownership, justice, and power for every person a centerpiece of U.S. foreign policy. And most important, the Capital Homestead Act would make it possible for you and every member of your family to build a personal ownership stake in income-producing assets without taking away anything from anybody and without raising taxes. By age 65, a child born today could own almost $500,000 in tax-sheltered assets that would earn $46,000 in dividends that year while paying out nearly $1.6 million in after-tax dividends over those 65 years. Now, what I'm saying is we need to address this plan directly. This will solve most of the problems where you'll be able to earn enough money to take care of your families in the way they should, and we won't need to redistribute wealth because you'll be actually creating wealth by everybody earning enough money in the first place. This is very important. And with that, I will yield the floor, but I will make some further comments in a moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pekarek. Now we'll have a rebuttal from each candidate, and they'll use the balance of their time. Mayor Fudge, you have 4.5 minutes.
Thank you. Mr. Pekarek is right to the degree that the economy is certainly one of the pressing issues that we face today. But I think that we need to have some practical ways to respond to it. We all know that the cost of a college education has risen by 35% in the last 4 years. We also know that healthcare costs have risen 4 times at the rate of wages. We know that we need to come up with a solution that works today. We need to, as well, indeed hold the markets accountable. And I think that that goes back to a whole legislative background that I think is important for this job. We need to say to the people who have been so greedy that they have put out bogus loans, they've issued bogus loans, they knew that these people weren't able to pay these bills. I mean, when we talk about truth in lending, none of that happens today. The real issue with the markets is that we did not hold accountable people who should have been held accountable. We need to bring criminal charges against them. I think that until we say to them, we're going to make you responsible for the mess you have created, that's the first thing we have to do, because until we do, then they're going to continue to do it. The other thing is we have to make sure that we regulate a lot of these mortgage companies who right now are out here doing whatever they choose to do, and they're not regulated like banks. They're not regulated like other institutions that the government has some control over. So most of these bad loans were really issued by these mortgage institutions that really did not have any controls. So we have to stop letting people do the kinds of things they do. And as we talk about some of the things that are happening now, I know there's a big issue on our ballot, issue 5, that talks about payday lending. And I read an article about why it was important that we vote no on issue 5. Well, let me say to you this, that if the institutions in this country, and now I'm talking about banks, if we don't start to regulate them in some way, then we're going to have more and more of these things. If you write a bad check and it costs you $50 for insufficient funds, then it's cheaper to go and take a payday loan and pay $15 for it. So we need to start to look at the fees that are charged by banks, the fees that are charged by mortgage companies. We need to as well hold the Congress accountable, because the Congress has knowingly allowed the mortgage crisis because they took no action. So I think that we need to understand not only the markets, but we need to have a plan that can happen now. We need to have short-term and long-range plans. And so I do indeed believe that once we take the loopholes that are in the law out, once we say to foreclosure people that they can go into bankruptcy and know that the bankruptcy judge can actually change the rate on their mortgage, which cannot happen today. So either they have to say, either you're going to pay it or you're going to lose it. We need to change things that make sense. We know that these rates were usurious, so we need to say, let's make them reasonable so people can stay in their homes. We also need to say that this entire industry has got to look at how they pay people and hire people. Wages, when you give people a job, people feel better about their home, they feel better about their family, they find a way to get health care, they find a way to maintain their property, they find a way to keep their neighborhoods good. So we've got to talk about how to make people's quality of life better every day. Not 20 years from now, not 50 years from now, but today. And so I think the plans that I have would do that. So I thank you, Mr. Pekarek. I do agree that the economy is very, very important, but we need to have some things that can work right now.